Night. Welcome to California Free Radio. I'm Mike Netter, and if you're watching this, you probably know that already. This show is blasting out all over the place on social media at Netter Mike and TaxFighter7, and on LinkedIn, where there are lots of people that have jobs and money and an interest in what's happening in the state of California, and on Facebook under my real name and under our Rebuild California groups. And I'm going to talk a little bit about last week's show. And if you
What
missed
about
it,
us?
well, I'm going to get to you guys. These guys are so fancy. Yes, every week I'm
Say
accompanied
hi.
by Scott
Hi.
Piotr, and I'm accompanied by Kurt English. Scott Piotr's at TaxFighter.7. Kurt simply lurks in the background. He actually does amazing notes each week. And as you could tell, is ready to dive into the ocean at any moment. When I
One
started
of the
this,
last parts of California that's great, Newport Beach.
well, we're going to talk about San Diego tonight. I want to roll into that. Our shows are replayed each week, not only on social media, but on our Outrage channel. And if you watched the show last week where you saw the wall of liquor behind me when I was in remote, you would have also known that we had Kevin McNamee on, who talked about the CEO Act, which is about school choice. And opening with a bit of a rant here, opening with a big rant here, is this. The Democrats, the left, obviously destroying the very fabric of California. We know about the $8 a gallon gas, which they voted no this week. We'll get to later in the show. And no meant yes. Start saving up everything you can. We know Kirk can dive into that water because that's the only place he's going to get it for free. And we know about much the Democrats are doing. But one of the other huge stories this week is what is being done to the kids. And that was last week's story. And I really want to stress that because, Kurt, we talked before the show about Normandy and the D-Day anniversary, I believe, is tomorrow. And a lot of people gave up their lives, gave up their freedom, gave up a lot to serve for the next generation. They're called the greatest generation much of the time. And we, as the next generation below the World War II folks, if you will, we have to start standing up more for our children. And our guest tonight got her start in doing that. But I think it's important to note that what is happening in California, we have to keep contained. This show flows from San Diego to Sacramento and beyond, all over. And tonight we're going to focus on San Diego a lot. But I also don't want to lose sight of the fact that we have to focus on what's happening to boys and girls in education. Scott, weigh in on this a little bit.
Well, we have the same thing happening in the schools statewide, and obviously it affects San Diego too. So I'm excited to have our guest here tonight because she got her start, so to speak, as she's a one-woman wrecking crew in San Diego politics, turning over the status quo, and she started that in the schools. And the biggest thing now is, I don't know if everybody saw this, but Harmeet Dillon, our assistant attorney general, wrote a letter to every school in the state of California, that basically says, look, you need to stop following the state law and stop having boys being able to participate in CIF sports pretending to be girls. They're not allowed to participate in the girls' sports. It violates the Constitution, Amendment 14, and as well as Title IX. And so now schools have a choice to make. They're either going to lose all their Title IX funding, or they're going to stop following state law, which is unconstitutional according to Harmeet, which I happen to agree with her on, although not exactly a constitutional scholar here. But yeah, I mean, even Gavin Newsom agrees that boys pretending to be girls and participating and competing against girls in girls' sports is unfair. So good to hear the feds weighing in, and hopefully they come in with a very heavy boot.
And Nicola, we're ready to go tonight and take no bull. And speaking of constitutions, Kurt, being a lawyer before we bring our guests in here, I used to yell out on stage, have you read the Constitution? And I love it. And I still do from time to time, depending on the audience I'm in front of. And people go, yeah. And I go, oh, I'm sorry, I meant the California Constitution. Because it seems our state legislature, and we're going to talk a lot about that tonight, hasn't, and the governor, Gavin Newsom himself,
Wait a
doesn't,
minute. Our state has a constitution?
they don't seem to know that. They don't seem
It
to
does,
obey
yes.
constantly for that. And Kurt, it seems they violate it or try to get around it all the time, doesn't it?
Well, they don't care. The Democrats are interested in power. They don't care about rights. They don't care about the Constitution. They want to run a dictatorship.
100%.
Constitution just in the way, so why bother?
It is in the way. And let's talk about something. Our next guest has a special place in my heart, in my brain, and in my past, if you will, because I grew up a lot and raised my family in San Diego. And I want to start by painting the picture. Much as Los Angeles is a wonderful area, some of the time, Orange County,
Well, let's not exaggerate, Mike. Let's not exaggerate.
Newport Beach, California is a beautiful state. It's worth saving. But the reality is, one of the most beautiful spots in California is indeed San Diego. It's marvelous, it's wonderful, but as we know, the left can screw up almost anything, and they spend a lot of time trying to screw up California. I am very proud to introduce a great voice on X, Amy Reichert. Dan, could you bring Amy in right now? Amy, how the heck are you?
Awesome. How are you guys doing?
Doing great. It's hard to believe
Right.
when I met you, we were talking about before the show, 4 or 5 years ago now, we've been doing this fight when I was involved, or one of the main people actually, in the recall of Gavin Newsom. And you got kind of involved, not for a different reason, because you woke up because the state, in effect, said your kids can't go to school, they have to wear masks. Start the audience off by telling us your story.
I'm the co-founder of Reopen San Diego, and we fought for the safe reopening of schools and businesses and churches, and we fought against the mask mandates. And we wound up suing the city of San Diego in federal court because they passed an unconstitutional ordinance saying that if you didn't get the COVID shot, you couldn't hold elected office, and we won.
It's interesting because you did win, but the state keeps throwing stuff at us. And today, COVID's kind of over, but you're continuing to fight. And I want to pump you for 1 second for everybody out there. In my newsletter, Netter News, I say this now at the top, that we're swimming upstream against the mainstream, because in a way, we've become the media that we can trust now. And you've become a powerful voice on, I still call it Twitter, but I'm going to go with Elon because he has more money, and we'll just call it X. And you report a lot on San Diego stories that don't get reported. San Diego's kind of a media island when it comes to California, because the major LA stations don't reach down there. They don't reach back up here. Tell us about some of the latest things you've done on X, and Scott and Kurt are going to weigh in with some questions here.
Well, you're absolutely right. I got so tired of shaking my fist at the TV news locally here in San Diego. I saw an opportunity and actually a vacuum. And so I started doing my own investigations. I am a state licensed private investigator in the state of California, and people started sending me whistleblower information. Well, a couple weeks ago, it was these downtown business people, and they're just desperate to get some help because what's going on there is on any given night in the gas lamp, there are hundreds of these illegal hot dog vendors, right? So they filed a lawsuit against Mayor Todd Gloria and the city of San Diego. One restaurant actually had to close its doors. It was a taco place. And I decided to go down to the gas lamp myself. And what I saw was right in front of a restaurant, like a taco shop, you'll have 5 of these illegal hot dog carts. But then I got a hold of a video and I had permission to share it. And Henry's Pub, which has been in the gas lamp for 25 years, they had their very last night. And on the very last night, and this was caught on video, and it got 23 million views. It looked like, I think the bartender possibly went outside and turned over an illegal hot dog cart. And he was yelling, "You're a scammer, you're a scammer." Well, I posted that. And what I was able to find out through court documents is they suspect that these illegal hot dog carts down in the gas lamp are actually backed by the cartels.
Mm-hmm.
And the people that are working these hot dog carts are actually paying off smuggler debts.
And by the way, I want for everyone out there, if you didn't see, this isn't a post that Amy did 4 years ago. This is the post you just did, I think, a week ago, 2 weeks ago.
Yes,
something
2 weeks
like that.
ago.
2 weeks ago. So it's caught fire. Now, Scott, I talked to you, and Kurt, I've talked to you before. I want to kind of set the scene for everybody not familiar with San Diego. So when Amy talks the gas lamp, and we want to spend a little time in it here, when you go to downtown San Diego, where Petco, the Padres for Kurt, play, okay? That is in what's called the Gaslamp Quarter, which is up against downtown Seaport Village next to kind of the Balboa Park and the world famous San Diego Zoo. Now, about 12, 14 years ago, Amy, we talked about this, right? They opened Petco. Frankly, the Gaslamp Corner used to be really, really bad. And down we started because one of the first things was a fabulous indoor shopping center called
Horton Plaza.
That was your cue, Amy. Perfect. You got it right on. Horton
I've been to both, Michael,
Well, you haven't been to Horton Plaza lately because you used to go to
because I
Horton
don't want
Plaza.
to go now.
And right, I believe the company that running it, Westminster, whatever their name is, who runs shopping malls, had decided. And by the way, I want to go on record. It wasn't my fault. We spent a lot of money down there, so the fact that they couldn't afford to keep open was not my fault. But anyway, that's a story for another day. And I will pay back those bank Fargo's watching. But anyway, well, when they shut it down on private property today, it is literally like a zombie movie. And it's surrounded. This is for everyone out there. Let me paint the picture. This is a probably 100,000 square foot mall with 3 levels, right? Escalators, used to be restaurants and everything. It has now been surrounded for approximately the last decade by basically wooden fencing, and where it has now become a pit so hideous a policeman or woman could not go in there by themselves. Amy, tell us about that, because I want to paint the visual of what's happening in San Diego.
Well, there was just a San Diego grand jury report released in the past week. And what they have found and what they said in that report is downtown is spiraling. So, what we're seeing in San Diego, a blue city, is what we're seeing up and down the coast of California. Every single one, San Francisco, Los Angeles, San Diego, is just ravaged by the despair of homelessness, open drug use, and yes, those illegal hot dog vendors. But it's the violent crime, and violent crime has increased by 17% in our downtown Gaslamp area.
Is it a sanctuary city?
So San Diego is not a sanctuary city. Our county is called a super sanctuary county, but we were just put on the list by the Department of Homeland Security. They put out a list of 500 jurisdictions, cities, counties, states that are not complying with the federal government because they are sanctuaries. So the city of San Diego, though not a sanctuary city, is following sanctuary state law of California.
And in San Diego, just for reference, the way I understand it, because of COVID, the offices basically were empty during COVID, and they've really never recovered. You have huge amounts of vacancies in your downtown office space, which Horton and the Lamp District were kind of fed off of those districts, right? And the other thing, I was a councilman in Newport Beach. We had similar problems with food trucks and illegal vendors. Here you got these restaurants that spend literally hundreds of thousands of dollars or more, building a building, paying a lease, having insurance, paying the property taxes and the tourist taxes, dealing with the health departments and all this stuff. And then these food trucks and hot dog carts come in. And I mean, we use hot dog carts generically, right? They can sell tacos or whatever, but they don't do any of that crap. They don't pay rent. They're not paying, they're not dealing with the health department. You really do take your life in your hands sometimes going to them to eat. And so all of a sudden they're able to compete on such an unfair, unlevel playing ground. It drives the bars and restaurants out of business. And that's what you found, right?
Yes, and of course, it actually started at the state level because there was a Senate bill that was passed that Gavin Newsom signed that basically decriminalized illegal vendors, saying that most of these vendors are marginalized people and immigrants. So it's totally unfair. It's totally unfair to these businesses. And let me tell you, every single one of these hot dog carts is from Harbor Freight Tools, right? So it's not even like a legit cart or anything, and it's they're serving up hepatitis A on a bun with a side of E. coli.
Okay, I got to ask you a question. Is the E. coli extra, or can you buy it in a combo?
These are $10 hot dogs, by the way. These aren't even cheap.
Don't ask what's in the mustard.
Yes, don't ask. And let's, and Kurt, by the way, is an attorney. He's about 60,000 other things because he's got more law degrees than USC has on their player roster for football. Kurt, how
that'd be 85 for your reference, Mike.
Thank you very much. And Kurt, how in the heck does government? I got a double question that I'd like you to kind of trade with Emmy on. I used to be able to speak, but apparently I ate one of those hot dogs. The question is, okay, one, how is it possible that government gets away with legalizing people without permits? And the next question I have is how, or what is even an excuse that, again, I talked about this morning, that government could have in San Diego for not clearing out or allowing a big mall, which, by the way, is the source of where a lot of these people hang out downtown, live. That's where they kind of climb out like roaches, all puns intended, where the homeless come from and the street drugs come from, or in the old Horton Plaza Mall. How is this possible that the government, are they just don't want to do it, not empowered to do it, or are they legally prevented from doing it?
Well, as a precursor to answering your question, Mike, as a tourist, I've been to Horton Plaza, and when the Gas Lamp District was first revitalized, and they were both really nice places. I got to tell you, the Horton Plaza Mall was very odd. You would sort of walk up a slope, and there were escalators. It was an odd shape. So it was an interesting place to go. And then the Gas Lamp had some really nice restaurants when it first became the Gas Lamp before it was destroyed. Now, the answer to your question is, if you look at the last 4 years of the Biden administration, these years of the Newsom administration in California, you can see that the Democrat Party just doesn't want to enforce laws that they don't agree with, because laws to them are optional. So you have many problems with this legally. Now, the Trump administration is going to defund these cities, counties, and states, they threaten. And I hope they do, even though for now I'm a California resident, but like many of us, I'm looking. And when they defund them, there's going to be enormous financial pressure on these Democrats, cities, states, and counties. I think the people who are paying rent, who are paying insurance, who are paying for permits, who are following all the laws, have a very strong federal claim for not enforcing the law equally. One of our fundamental principles of Anglo-American law is equality before the law. But what they're saying is disadvantaged people, i.e. brown people, are oppressed. Non-disadvantaged people, meaning Jews, Christians, heterosexuals, white people, are the oppressors. So it's okay to lie, cheat, and steal if the oppressors are the victims. And it's okay not to enforce laws against the oppressed.
Right, but I guess the question becomes down to, Yeah, no, I get the legal, I mean the liberal mumbo jumbo that goes with it. But Amy, it strikes me as bizarre. Even I mean, this is always about money and power, right? That you would think something,
Follow the money.
yeah, what would be done about that. But I want to go to a couple other situations. Let's talk about schools.
Oh,
And
good.
yeah, because that is a big one. We had, you know who Kevin McNamee is, right? He's running the CEO Act. He's a former mayor of Thousand Oaks. We're going to be promoting that, which is the new school choice, right? Because we've got to give parents the ability to take their kids out of public school. Talk about what's going down, going on down in. Apparently, I lost my ability to speak tonight in the San Diego schools, right? What's happening down there? Because you're heavily involved in that. And by the way, hold on before you answer that question. You have to. I'm going to ask you to tell us your website, and we're going to be scrolling across the screen for everybody out there because you have to engage with Amy. Don't forget San Diego, and I say that for a big chunk of California. Don't forget San Diego. Amy, tell us your website real quick.
RestoreSanDiego.org.
Right. It almost sounds like Rebuild California, but we're two separate groups. If you have $20, give us 10 and Amy 10. Rebuild California, we have the QR code up there, and Restore San Diego could use the other $10. And let's face it, if you have any money left, buy a quarter of a gallon gas. But tell us what's going on down in the San Diego schools right now.
There is radical indoctrination of children going on throughout the state. And I've been exposing what's going on specifically in San Diego County. So, number one story comes out of Encinitas, California, where a fifth grade boy was read the book My Shadow is Pink. That book is about a little boy who wants to wear a dress. And at first, his father objects. But then the father decides to join the son and put on a dress too, and then they go to the zoo. So, first of all, the parents who had asked to opt out of this before were not given notification or consent. But it gets worse. It gets so much worse. So then the teacher had all the fifth graders go over to a kindergarten class, to their kinder buddies. This was a mentoring program that fifth graders weekly would mentor their kinder buddy. At that point, then the kindergarten teacher showed basically a movie, a video audio of the same book, My Shadow is Pink. But then it gets worse. Then the teachers had all the kids go outside and they asked the fifth graders to go over to their kinder buddy and ask them to choose a chalk color that represented their shadow and then ask them, what color is your shadow? And then using the color that they say, draw an outline on the concrete. Well, that is now a federal lawsuit now.
One quick second here. Dan, I've got for our producer, I probably should put this on the chat, but I'm too lazy to type, and I did go to public school. Sound levels up a little bit because I'm getting some on Amy and our just in general, maybe tweak the sound up just a bit. I'm getting some people saying that we have like a level on.
How long ago was this? The pink shadow thing. How long ago was it?
That was May of last year, and it's in federal court right now. And the federal judge, although the case is not over, he just ruled. So, also just to backpedal just a little bit, the state of California says that parents can opt out if it's a health lesson, but they can't opt out if radical gender ideology is snuck into history or math or science. And so just regular science. So what happened here was the federal judge ruled that these parents could opt out of all of these. So that was a very promising sign, but I've got other worse stories too.
We've talked about state law allows you to opt out if it's a sex ed curriculum or item.
Correct. Yes.
But if they're teaching about LGBTQ, then they're not teaching about sex with LGBTQ, then they cannot opt out. They're not allowed to opt out. The teachers don't have to offer them to opt out. But that's really good news that this federal district court basically said, no, the parents have an option to opt out. Sounds to me like we need a nationwide injunction by that district judge.
Bring it on.
So what's going on now? What's the latest hot button in San Diego?
So it's just more school stuff. There was an incident at a Carlsbad High School where a transgender activist was invited to speak by a club. And the transgender activist was also the director of a medical clinic that performs gender affirming services to minors. When parents looked through this person's Instagram, they found, I don't even know, I'll probably get censored for saying the kind of images that were there. But because of the parent outcry,
He has some strange name too. I'm trying
yes,
to remember.
Mita Beach. And
Meet me.
parents asked if they could be
It
there.
sounds like a porn movie name.
Yes.
It is, I'm sure.
Parents asked if they could be there because he was going to be speaking at the school cafeteria during lunch. And the principal said, no, you can't be there. So California says it's inclusive, but the ones that they're excluding are California parents.
Are the parents?
This is outrageous. This is outrageous and
Are you finding
unacceptable.
parents are gathering, organizing, and getting more upset? Is this a bridge too far for parents in San Diego?
I get messages about this every single day. People are sending me screenshots and videos. Another controversy is Gavin Newsom wants to require ethnic studies for kids to get a high school diploma, but that's not going to be for a few years. Well, San Diego, which is always happy to like opt into these things early, right? They decided to make ethnic studies a requirement to graduate this year. Well, these ethnic study classes are.
We lost Amy. She was censored.
He was
These are
ghosted by the
radical Marxist
Amy.
ideology lessons, and parents send me these screenshots and these videos, but they want to remain anonymous because they're scared. And one of these lessons was all about whiteness and white privilege. It was ridiculous, and I want more parents to stand up, but they're afraid.
I want to jump
Yeah,
in.
Amy, what I would advise kids to do as a lawyer and a parent is, if that had happened to me, I would have stood up in class, been as disruptive as possible, dared them to expel me so I could sue everybody personally for civil rights violations. This will end when we rain down hellfire and brimstone in the courts and in the school board meetings and the elections, and we fight harder than they are. This is outrageous.
Well, we lost Amy here for a second. She'll be back. I want to take a step back and actually go over what Amy said there. I work with a group who's trying to get no on A and B, which I believe is being voted on today, Kurt, in Huntington Beach, or yesterday or this week.
No, on June 10th. June 10th,
When?
and also the school board special election in Newport Beach. Two big ones.
Okay.
Next Tuesday, Huntington Beach.
Okay.
Oh yeah, Huntington Beach. Of course, got a school board.
And one of the people I'm working with, Karen England, the Nevada state, she is out of another state. She goes all over the country. And I really want you to grasp what I'm about to tell you next. And I want the audience to hang on this for 1 second. She called in, the Nevada state legislature is trying to pass legislature to make some of these books, is the best way to put it, good for students. This is kindergarten, and okay. Can you hear me, Amy? Amy, you're there?
I can. I'm back.
All right, I want you to hear what I had to say here. So I want to go back to the pink dress book for 1 second to really put a shocker, because I got shocked last week. And as an old guy, I don't shock easily, except when I wake up and look in the mirror and realize my eyes are still open. That's shocking. But outside of that, what I have to tell you next is even more so. So Karen England who I'm working with and other groups to get the No and A and B, so these type books don't get in the Huntington Beach Library and in our schools, testified last week in the Nevada State Legislature. You may have heard about this, who was had up for vote to authorize these type books. She read these, like half a chapter from these books. I cannot repeat the language. I mean, I really cannot repeat the language. I can't even put the language on X or Facebook. There is another woman that has it up in a video, and I'm going to repost part of it and send you outside my social media. It is literally so obscene. My mom, who was a San Diego Unified teacher, wouldn't have washed my mouth soap. She would have cut off my tongue. And I'm really not exaggerating. Mom was tough. Okay, with these words that we're telling these kids. When you say, when is it a bridge too far? It's a bridge too far now. My opinion, here's part of the problem. The pink dress ones get through a little bit. But when some of the kids hear some of the language in these books, they can't even go home and the Christian kids and the well-raised kids, which are most of them, and repeat it to their parents. It is beyond, literally an X-rated theater would throw you out if you said some of this stuff. I'm not exaggerating this, by the way.
You're not exaggerating. I have to tell you this. I spoke with a school board member in Santa Ana. She was censored by her other board members just for saying that she went to a Islamic center and it was members of the Muslim community who are objecting to the kind of books that are in schools. And I also went back and I listened to the board meeting where she was censored, and it was parent after parent after parent. And they were reading aloud from these books, Mike. It's so wild and it's so graphic. I can't even say it here on Facebook. If I started reading some of these books right now, no one would believe me because it's so wild, but this is reality.
Yeah, that's
Amy,
Brent.
it is, because even at church last week at Beach Cities in Huntington Beach, one of the school board members in Huntington Beach read a couple of these ridiculous books that were in the public library, and it's the same kind of outrageous sexualization of children that you described.
Yes.
It's not. I mean, everybody knows that if you want to rope a kid into participating in incest and other malicious things, you have to desensitize them. And that's exactly what these liberals are doing with these books. They're trying to desensitize our kids to porn so that they'll think that abhorrent, abnormal sexual behavior is normal. And they ought to go to jail for this crap. Instead,
they're all criminals.
We're fighting at the polls to see if we can't even put them in an age-restricted, section of the library. It's ridiculous.
It's actually, I hate to say I'm not a porn expert, but this is, when you read these books, we'll have to defer to Kurt on that one. It's actually beyond porn almost. But let's understand this is one of the main things that you're fighting for, right? That I want everybody to be aware of up and down the state. We need to fight for the kids. That not only, now I don't know about you, when I went to school, they had entirely high expectations of me and being able to do things like add 2 + 2, read Little White House, just minor things to begin with, like right now, operate a keyboard. But this isn't being taught in school right now. But beyond that we're aware of, that are reportable facts, they're actually, I don't care what your morals are politely, within reason, or what your religion is, they are actually tearing out the very fabric, and the media themselves doesn't really reports on it. Makes it sound like, oh my God, the conservatives are trying to censor and book ban. They're gonna have a book burning down by the beach. And the reality is, this goes beyond civility. What is actually in these books? Go ahead, Amy. I'll get too wound up and I'll say something.
You're exactly right. The radical left, they'll say that we are book banners for not wanting these sexually explicit books in our children's libraries. And there's something that should be on everybody's radar right now. There is, I believe it's Senate Bill 727 or AB 27, excuse me if I don't know which one. But what it will do is it will mandate that the Trevor Project telephone number will be put on every single student ID. And they even wanted this on private school student IDs. Who is the Trevor Project? So the Trevor Project, and it does cater to LGBTQ youth specifically, but they have something called Trevor Spaces, and it's these chat rooms. And these chat rooms are for 13 to 24-year-olds. So they're mixing kids with adults. And by the way, there's no age verification. So if you're 13, you can say that you're actually 19, right? Or if you're 42, you can say that you're a 13-year-old girl. And they also have this is an international platform, and they do it all under the guise of suicide prevention. Fine. If you want to make a tool available to kids for suicide prevention, put the National Suicide Hotline on the back of the cards, not a telephone number for a radical left organization that's trying to indoctrinate our kids and introduce them to social media platforms where they can be exploited.
And by the way, I want to be really clear on something. In the Netter News we put out today, don't call the emergency hotlines like 911. They don't answer. We reported that in San Diego here today too. But when they talk about things like, for everyone out there not quite familiar with this, the difference in a suicide hotline or 911 is, in theory, it doesn't work in California. See Netter News today. You call someone, they answer and respond to your crisis or emergency. For everyone out there, there's 211, there's 911, there's first, whatever. A chat room, okay, is simply an online, to Amy's point, it's not even really social media, I guess. It's kind of like just like when we see your comments up and down the side here, that anybody can go on, that you don't know who they are, and it's not meant to identify people who are in crisis. It's really more designed to put you in some kind of mantra or crisis. And so why they're putting the Trevor Project on these things, it's almost like, I know Scott Wiener is evil. The devil won't let him in when he goes downstairs. But I don't even think most of these legislatures have any idea what they're voting for.
Yeah, and anytime a parent objects, they just say, well, you don't care that transgender kids are taking their own lives. I absolutely do care. Right? I
But that's
believe that they're
why.
making it
That is
worse.
why. But that is why they're taking their lives. Because if you give sex hormones to kids, it makes them crazy, or adults. And these people are mentally ill, and they're being used as political pawns by the radical left instead of introducing morals to children. Oh my gosh, morals. And doing what's actually right for a child. We don't let children contract till they're 18. We don't let them join the army till they're 18. We don't let them buy a firearm till they're 18. Why? Because they don't have adult judgment yet. Because neurons grow through a teenager's brain well into their 20s. That's why we don't trust kids below 18 to make important adult decisions. And this is a critically important adult decision.
Hey, Amy, I want to jump on to what you're doing in San Diego. I know you ran for office. You took your fun time in San Diego there as you tried to, lift the curtain a little bit, shine the light of day, and corrupt government, including the schools and being closed. Tell us about your run for office, and are you thinking of running again?
No, I am never running again, and I'm making myself as completely unelectable as possible by saying what I do
You don't
on
want to put
social
your
media.
what
But
office did you?
I loved running for office, by the way, and I encourage anybody who's watching, please do it. So I ran in the deepest blue supervisor district in the county of San Diego. So the redistricting lines were redrawn, and in January of 2022, I found out that because of redistricting, I was in Nathan Fletcher's district. Nathan Fletcher was, and I'll tell you more about this later, was the most powerful man in San Diego County and the heir apparent to Gavin Newsom. So I had a short runway to run for office because it was just redistricted. I had from January until November to raise money and run. And I was in a D plus 30 district. And anybody who's listening, that means the Democrats outnumber Republicans in my district 2.5 times to 1. It is not a swing district, not even close.
But it's a
I was-
nonpartisan race.
it is a nonpartisan race, but that doesn't matter. People
Right.
people vote blue no matter who, and the same thing goes for red too.
Is Nathan Fletcher in jail yet?
He is not in jail, but what happened was after
He has a worse fate. He has to live with his wife. Go
well
ahead.
Ouch.
I'll say it.
Ouch.
always knew that he was going to implode publicly and spectacularly because of the tyranny that he did to us during COVID. And sure enough, 5 months after he was reelected, he sent out a Sunday night tweet at 10 o'clock at night saying that he was struggling with PTSD and alcohol and demons of PTSD and alcohol, and he was going to get rehab. And then 2 days later, someone who works for the Metropolitan Transportation System, which that's our buses and trolleys in San Diego, filed
But-
a sexual harassment lawsuit against him, and it's still pending. And that case, I believe, is going to go to trial this summer.
For everyone out there watching this, Dan, our producer, you remember Nathan Fletcher? He was a supervisor in county when Rusty Hicks called us for starting the recall. Right-wing,
That's right.
redneck, communist,
White supremacists.
of garbage. Nathan
Nazis,
was leading the
neo-Nazis.
crowd and said, yep, that's right, neo-Nazis. And we actually had 2 people in San Diego make videos of various people of diversity up and down San Diego saying, Nathan Fletcher, I am an Asian, I'm this, ramming up your posterior. But to say I was happy the day Nathan imploded, well, I can't say that. I was very happy the day Nathan imploded. And for everybody out there, Nathan Fletcher's wife is
Lorena Gonzalez, who is chief union boss of the California Labor Federation.
correct. And for
Nice.
everyone out there, if you ever saw the movie Silence of the Lambs, his wife looks the main character in there, look like Mickey Mouse. She was an assembly person. She swears like a sailor. She is horrible for anybody outside of herself. And Nathan Fletcher is actually, and I'm going to say it because it's out there, been accused, not proved, because we don't have that video, but of course, maybe it's one of those children's books, of having various affairs on Lorena Gonzalez. And I'm sorry, Amy, I just have to rub that in because Nathan Fletcher publicly had personal words for Mike Netter. And so now I'd like to give my official response for everybody watching. Okay. Now that I've
Well,
gotten through
Amy
that.
lost
So-
against this crumb. Is who?
No. Well, she lost, but in a way, go on.
You know what? When I decided to run against Nathan Fletcher, one of the first things I thought of is, what if I lose? And then my second thing that I thought of is, I have nothing to lose. And what was really cool about that election, even though I didn't prevail, I still overperformed my voter registration average because my district is only 18% Republican and it's 50% Democrat. I overperformed my voter registration average by 22%. And I've been able to go
And I
on
wanna-
and be a voice even more so for San Diego and serve people.
More importantly, I think which is very, very important to note, this race got Nathan Fletcher out of office, okay? And you may not think so, but I do. Because Amy is, if somebody else had run against who was a lay down Republican or another setup Democrat, a lot of this information may have not flushed out on Nathan Fletcher. And you may not view it that way, Amy, but I do. I've been on stage with you down in San Diego. I've seen you walk out with that sign, okay? And you basically, when you have someone really challenge and make a race of it, okay, that I think in effect put a spotlight back on Nathan Fletcher, who simply thought he was going to cruise through and things he knew about.
Yeah, you called him out. Way to go.
I know I got underneath his skin and Lorena's skin because she started trolling all of my social media accounts, and then she wound up calling my ex-husband to try to get dirt on me, and then sent me a private message basically taunting me that she had called him, and then she called me all kinds of names and said she was going to pray for my sons. So I know I got underneath their skin. If she's going to that length, come on.
And then she resigns as an assembly person to take this other job later. So, right?
That's exactly right. Yeah, she went from the pipeline
Okay,
and the
so
assembly
going out
to
there,
the union boss.
Amy is kind of a heroine in my book because she got two, however it was done, you had an effect on getting two really bad people out of office. And as much as it pains me to say this, I'd rather have Lorena Gonzalez where she's at now, at least being head of the service union, SEIU, I believe, if I have it correct, or whatever union she's in charge of, which is a big one up and down the state, than actually in public office with that bully pulpit. So at least we don't have to hear about them on the news, and I'm sure we'll hear about them one day on 2020 or something like that, because I'm sure that isn't a happy household. Scott wants to talk about something else, though, Amy, and I don't know how much you know about this, so we're going to surprise you. Scott is very obsessed with sewage. Well, not all sewage specifically, but the sewage down in Imperial Beach. And I used to live there many years ago, and I'm very familiar with this situation. Tell us what you know about it, and we all can chime in. And I hope you could stay a little longer because I know we're keeping you a bit longer than we said.
I went on a tour of the Tijuana. Or Scott, did you want to talk about it, or did you want me just to go right into it?
What's going on? Give us the scoop.
All right. So I went down to the Tijuana River Valley, which is the river right along the U.S.-Mexico border. It's a city called Imperial Beach. And what is happening is nearly 100 million gallons a day during the highest point of raw sewage and hazardous waste were being dumped into the Tijuana River Valley, which then went into the Pacific Ocean and then would find its way as far up as Coronado, where the Hotel Del is. So I took a tour down there, and what I found out was, well, of course, it's Mexico's fault, but I found out that Gavin Newsom has had his hand in making sure that the sewage stays in the United States and not Mexico.
Explain that.
So there was an assembly bill that was passed. So Trump basically set aside $300 million to handle the crisis. And then when Biden took office, they undid all of that. And then the Assembly Democrats passed, and forgive me, I don't remember the exact number, but they passed one of their horrible bills. And basically what it did was it ensured that sewage would continue to be routed into the United States. And some people were speculating that they wanted to actually treat that sewage and make it drinkable. That was part of the plan. But what I saw down in the River Valley is there's all these NGOs, non-government organizations, and they get these grants for these projects, right, to create these sewage ponds. So the other thing that happened was once Biden took office and they realized they had a complete weakling at the White House, they turned off their pumps in Tijuana, and people referred to them as the Trump pumps. The Trump pumps were turned off, and instead of sewage being routed 7 miles south of the border, it was being dumped right into the Tijuana River Valley, even during the dry season.
I want to
So
jump in for a second and paint a picture because I used to live down there, and this problem's been going
Must,
on for a long
must
time.
have smelled good, right?
Well, it's. Let me paint the picture. I'm gonna put. Oddly enough, I'm gonna go environmentalist for you a second. Don't worry, I'll be back. So for everybody to understand San Diego, you have Gaslamp, which is being destroyed. And when you go about 20 miles down, the most southwestern city in the United States is the city of Imperial Beach. Now, let me paint this picture for you so you understand. This small town has a flat sand bottom on the ocean, so the water comes straight in, okay, on Seacoast Drive. And once a day, as the tide goes out, you can literally walk across the line. I'm getting there. And then the tides come back and you could drown. When the tide comes back and puts the water in. Here's where I'm going to go environmentalist on you. For those of us that used to live on the beach, and the Navy SEAL beach is right down from there, okay, across there is something called the slough. That slough for years was thought to be protected by the state of California. It's normally beautiful. Birds, rare birds, species in this. What did you tell me this morning, Scott? You go yesterday. You called a what?
Estuary.
Estuary. Thank you. It's a fancy word for it. We just call it cool looking, but I'll run with estuary. Okay.
It's a
So,
yes.
right. So actually, animals, most of us would like to see protected. Most people would like to see kids protected. Now, the problem, of course, is that because California is too busy trying to put smut in schools and not keep drug dealers out of Gaslamp, and using CEQA to keep homes from getting built, you would think the environmentalists and normal people would preserve this thing, this estuary, or whatever the heck you say that, which is there. Literally, this sewage goes into the ocean in Mexico, comes in by the ton once a day, moves up through this small inlet, which you can walk across. You literally, it goes up to barely your knees, and it's flushed into this thing that looks like a mini Florida Everglades, but it's probably like 300 or 400 acres, and kills the wildlife. Not to mention what it does for the humans, because after when I lived down there 40 years ago, it didn't quite smell as bad, but smelled pretty bad. After 40, 50 years, it smells a lot worse. This is the part which really boggles my mind. It's like, the people down, the conservative people, any people who live down in IB, environmentalists, the Auburn Society, for God's sakes, National Geographic, should be up in arms about what is happening down there, and it gets no pub again from the mainstream media on a regular basis. Go ahead before I blow my head off.
Mike, let me jump in here. I have a friend who's grown up in Coronado, member of the Coronado Yacht Club, has lived in Coronado his whole life. And so he told me that Memorial Day weekend, it's so bad down there that the Hotel del Coronado Beach was closed and is still closed all these days later. And he says that the Chinese are paying Mexico to dump the sewage and poison our Navy SEALs who train down there, and that this is part of the ongoing Chinese effort to poison us, like what you saw at the University of Michigan when they're trying to sneak that.
I'll entertain that angle.
I'll entertain it, but hold on one second. The reason I'm going on that a little bit, here's part of the problem, okay? The Chinese don't need to pay Mexico to do it. Mexico doesn't give a damn, okay? Tijuana, the city beside it, used to be a city of 1 million people. And by the way, in 40, 50 years, it's grown to something like 5, 8 million, okay? It's pure idiocy that has not just happened all of a sudden, okay? If they're paying the Chinese to keep the Mexican government stupid, I might buy that. But the reality is, okay, that is a flat bottom ocean, which is why I brought that up, Kurt. Okay, it doesn't have a reef or anything in it. We used to surf out there. It flows up the Coronado. It's just, again, the California government not cooperating with the Trump government, who's trying to solve it, the conservatives looking the other way. And it's, again, ruining beautiful coasts like the gas lamp is a beautiful place, okay? Just ruining it for no, I don't know if it's the Chinese, Kurt, or what the reasons are, but I really want to go with just pure stupidity. And the fact that there isn't a lot of money in cleaning up the sloughs, okay, except for whatever.
NGOs.
Well, here's why I'll entertain the angle. So across the border, on the east side of Tijuana, that's the Otay area, and they have what's called maquiladoras in Spanish, which are factories, right? And so these are a lot of foreign ones from Japan or from China, and they're able to dump hazardous waste in Mexico, which then winds up in the United States, that they would never ever be able to dump directly into the United States. So I'm not sure that they're paying off Mexico. Who knows? I mean,
I'll tell you
the
what,
word for bribe is mordidas, so maybe they're, but the beaches have been closed in Imperial Beach for 1,000 consecutive days.
Wow.
we'll go down another rabbit hole on waste because there's a whole story on California waste, as everybody's aware of. California doesn't produce less waste. We simply, the Coastal Commission, Don, that you're asking about, does absolutely nothing because they would say, oh, nothing we can do about it, and it's international, okay? We need to do a whole other show on California because it's coming out a lot of the time. California actually has been shipping the majority of this non-liquid waste off to Arizona and Utah, who are now starting to give the New York salute to California. So we're going to do a whole other show probably on the Coastal Commission, etc. But Amy, I want to go back to the kids for 1 second, which is actually an interesting point. Let's come full circle a little bit in this conversation, okay? When I was a small child, yes, indeed, and we took wagons to school, okay, and I would say walk in the snow, but the reality is they used to not try to pollute our minds by occupying us in school with these kinds of books, but took us on things. Anybody remember the field trip? And would take us down to estuaries, okay? And take us down to beaches and show us these things, which is where many of us today grew kind of an affliction for the water and the surfing and things that go with it, right? It almost seems, again, this is the conspiracy part of the theory that really gets to me a bit. We'll go back to the generation behind us. Because hopefully, the four of us on this podcast and many of our listeners and viewers out there, I could tell by the comments I'm getting, are smart enough to know that something should be different. But the generation coming around behind us may not. They may not know that this is not the way to talk to a female or a person, or this is not proper. They may never know the sloughs and know what proper wildlife looks like. It almost seems like, again, the fabric is below. So talk about the goal of your organization here for the next few months, which you, Amy, are trying to accomplish, because that's really what we're talking about here, the fabric of the next generation. You've got what, a 14-year-old son at this point?
I do, a 14-year-old son, and I also have a 25-year-old college graduate son.
You split them
So
apart.
there you go.
Hey, so do me a favor, when you're talking about the future of your organization, if there's another Amy in LA or San Francisco or wherever else people are listening to in California here, include in that your recommendation and how they can get involved and how they can make a change too.
Great.
Well, we reopened San Diego. Now we're trying to restore San Diego. So my group is restoresandiego.org, and you can go to the website and check it out. We're all about being a watchdog of politicians locally and throughout the state, holding the government accountable, and also acting against government overreach. So I just encourage anyone, if you want to get involved, really the very first step, and my first step in getting involved, is just having the courage to speak up. Don't be anonymous.
I
Be
want to dwell
loud.
on that
Like
very important.
Like Mike Netter. Be
Thank
loud.
you. Very
Be
important. What I was
like
going to say. We started.
Nobody
This is how
be like
we were.
Mike.
Yes, we started this because we started to give a damn because we had, as you put it, when is it a bridge got too far with Gavin Newsom in schools? But for many of you out there, right, don't wait until they're at your doorstep because they're just down the block
Right.
now. And I'm going to say something
Yes.
that's admiration for Amy and Scott and Kurt, and we do this because understand everybody out there, you have to do it too because this just in, no one is coming to save you. If you think that magically, okay, the next gubernatorial election, whoever we elect, if you think magically that the taco groups up and down the streets or stands are magically going to be cleared, it's going to go away. If you think Donald Trump is going to send in Robert Kennedy and Merlin to clean up IB, it doesn't work that way. We have let too far for too long. And it has hit the point now where we are in a metaphorical, I'm quoting that so I don't get thrown off social media, a metaphor. They're down your block. Right, Amy?
That's why people are leaving, and it's so sad.
They're in your libraries, but talking about going somewhere, and I don't think he will. We all do, but I got news for you. And Amy, you know exactly what I'm talking about. People say, I want to move down to San Diego because LA sucks. All right. San Diego is starting to move up, shall we call it the suck index. And for everyone out there, if you let California continue to do the one good export Gavin Newsom has brought to the state, no, it's not almonds. What is it I say all the time? It's bad politicians and policies. And he asked them to Washington. We have a guy like Donald Trump stopping them now. There's going to be no state to move in pretty soon if we don't stop it, and we as individuals. And Amy, that's where I have great admiration for you, because we fight with something to lose but nothing to lose, right? So Scott, speak up, go on social media, do a Netter News, it's at the top of my newsletter, start your own newsletter, do something, become your own media. Amy, where do you get a lot of, I know you're a private investigator, okay, but that doesn't mean you went to special private, investigator school, took a secret oath, you all meet in a room once a week, okay? You get information like I get information, and by the way, I'm a nobody, okay? I'm no license or anything. I think I still have my driver's license. I'll find out next time. But I get information because we're active, because people send us things that are our job to broadcast them, right?
Absolutely. Now I have to investigate this stuff though first because I don't want to get sued.
Right.
But I've got inside sources everywhere: police, fire, ICE, Customs and Border Patrol, elected officials, other reporters who feed me information and verify the information that I'm getting all the time.
So Amy, we're going to keep Amy on keep going long. Amy, do you got a few more minutes?
I do.
Cool. Scott, Kurt, here's what I want to do. We're going to go over some stories for California. Normally, we let our guests go. Jeez, I think I'm having an effect from just being near that alcohol last week at the Pineapple Hill. I had a wall of alcohol behind me because we did it in Angela's office, and apparently,
it's Mr. San Diego, and you just miss it. And so Amy,
I do actually. I have a lot of friends and family still down there. I played a lot of ball down there, and when I go down there to visit, sometimes you just go. You want to see how you could screw something up, really understand you can screw something up. Let's talk about some of the California stories. Kurt, bring us up a couple stories. You had great notes this week.
Yeah, let's start with gasoline costs.
Well, fortunately, Amy discussed a lot of them, so we can skip some of these San Diego stories. But liberals are now doxing ICE agents in
Mhm.
California and all over the country, meaning they are threatening their families and making death threats because they're arresting illegal aliens. So they're wearing masks. And now you have Democrat politicians whining about them wearing masks when they didn't care when rioters wore masks in 2020, Antifa and Black Lives Matter
Or
rioters.
they still do. Yeah. And,
Or
and
they
they're
wanted
threatening
us
their.
to wear masks in schools, Amy, which is what got you started to begin with, right? However, we can't let
Yeah.
ICE wear masks so they don't get doxxed. Again, for everyone out there in San Diego, which is very spread out and not concentrated, these are little pockets of stuff happening. Everyone out there, here's a trivia answer question you may not know the answer to, but I do. San Diego covers 250 square miles. That's the city proper. The city of San Francisco, which has 750,000 people, 765, covers 49 square miles, about a third of which is Golden State Park. So San Diego City itself, with approximately 1.5 million people, is really spread out. Okay, the county has about 3 million people. That's something to understand. It's little pockets of stuff happening in the downtown. That's why it's important that what you report on, it doesn't really hit the mainstream because the mainstream media pays no attention. Kirk, give us another story.
All right. Scott had a really interesting story this week about California's proposed taxes and regulations on gas appliances like furnaces, stoves, and hot water heaters. So, Scott, what's up with that?
Well, just like the fact the environmentalists are asleep at the switch down in the estuary on the border with Tijuana, which is kind of ironic that Biden's the one that removed all the environmental things that Trump put into place and made it a bad area. The legislature got into a lot of trouble, and the AQMD got into a lot of trouble because they proposed banning gas appliances. You weren't going to be able to have a gas stove or a gas hot water heater or a gas furnace. So they've taken a second tack. This tack, they're instead of banning them, they're going to tax them to death. So if you buy one, you have to pay taxes because you're causing carbon to go in the atmosphere due to the climate change hoax. And so you're going to have the price of the gas furnaces and hot water heaters be so high that they're going to now be competitive with the electric version. So people will start to switch to electric just because of the cost.
And by the way, that's the Orange County Coastal Commission smog, expletive deleted, which we don't elect. They're picked by other officials. Now, I want to jump back to Amy 1 second, because Amy, in case you don't know, and I'm sure you do, the San Diego Board of Supervisors this week kind of voted to do the same thing, didn't they?
Well, it's always just one thing after
except for
another.
Desmond and a couple Republicans, but got outvoted 3-2 by the Democrats to pass that gas stove ban.
That's right. So Jim Desmond tried to bring forth a measure that would have taken a stance against the increase in the gas tax, and of course, the Democrats voted against it.
Okay, hold on. This just in, because I'm getting a lot of questions. This is my X feed today. I'm going to go off topic real quick before we end the show in about 7 minutes about picking a side in the fight between Elon and Trump. No, we don't. Okay. And the reality is the richest man in the world and the most powerful man in the world, they're both going to be just fine. And they're really both in our corner. And at the end of the day, my humble opinion, and I was wrong once before, but it was the 80s, I was drinking, is that this is a little bit of a stage show. So the press runs to this because it's great theater, if you will, and they can fight all over the place for what they want. But normally our focus isn't necessarily national politics because we do focus on California. Gavin Newsom fighting with his wife and Nathan Fletcher fighting with his wife are certainly things I'd look to be more explosive in the long run versus Trump versus Elon. Now, let's roll to a couple final things here, okay? Couple final things. Amy,
all right.
Kirk, give us one more story. We got 4 more minutes.
All right. Now, Amy talked about what the homeless and the illegal aliens are doing to destroy the gas lamp in San Diego, but the same thing happened in Los Angeles, where a doctor had to close her medical practice because there were homeless encampments on the roof, and they were harassing and terrorizing the staff and the patients.
Huntington Park. What happened in Huntington Park to this doctor is that it actually started for everybody out there. And this is why gas lamps are important here. I'm going to respond to this one, okay? Gas lamp, the Horton Plaza story is important because it's spread out. The doctor that he's talking about in Huntington Park, there is a parking structure next to the building that the doctor is in. The top part of this parking structure was taken over by homeless people who discovered it's not that hard to get to the roof of this private building. And when they got to the roof of the private building, they discovered that the air conditioning units, amongst other things up there, could easily be taken apart and sold for parts, and there's other things that they could do. That's why stopping the spread of the unhoused, we'll just call them criminals, many homeless people are criminals, has to be done. Kirk, give us one more story and we'll roll to our last 2 minutes each.
All right. Well, you know about the regulations where Newsom and the Democrats are trying to harass refineries out of business, which, as we discussed in an earlier program in May, could cause Californians to pay up to $8 a gallon for gas because we'll have to import our gas to California.
So I
Yeah,
ran against Connie Petrie Norris for assembly last November. Connie Petrie Norris is our liberal wacko assemblywoman from Costa Mesa, Irvine, Tustin. And she's chairman of the Utilities Committee. And she made a comment saying $10 gas is not part of climate change. So she even realizes that that kind of pricing is going to turn the voters against them, all in the name of climate change hoax.
what they say and what they do are two different things. You saw Netter News today. Flash spoiler alert. I've got a special edition of Netter News coming out tomorrow. You can find it, well, only at Netter News. If you want to find how to subscribe, Google it. For everyone out there, it costs as much as the show, which would be nothing, which leads me to almost the final pitch. Amy, again, how can we donate to your organization? Money you use wisely, because I see you bought that incredible plant behind you. That needs water, by the way.
Restore San Diego. But you know what, though? I wanted to end on a high note. I actually have some good news from San Diego. Can
Yeah,
I?
the good news is you won't be on the air with me a little bit, but go ahead. What's the other good news?
Okay, really quickly, the mayor banned beach yoga, and they were giving tickets to yoga teachers, right? And federal court just ruled yesterday that the yoga teachers can have yoga on the beach, and they can rip up all the tickets from the park rangers who were more on them than illegal smugglers who were crashing on our beaches every single day during
Or the
break.
homeless, I'm sure. They just probably handed out hot food and coffee to the homeless.
You can smoke fentanyl on the beach at San Diego, apparently, but you can't do beach
What I
yoga.
really wanted to
They won, you guys.
They
won.
did, and
They
which should
won in
lead me,
federal
by the
court.
way, to a quick comedic thing here. What I really want to see now in San Diego is a group of illegal aliens storming in on a boat in the middle of the night. The Fox 5 cameras watching them jumping off that boat, and now they can go straight to do beach yoga. There is in America, I guess. Okay, I just want to see that visual. Amy, again, it's Restore California. Scott, we got about 2 minutes left. Hit me with your final point.
Hey, so we talked about 65-cent gallon gas tax. We talked about $10 gas and how the Democrats were all upset about it. But when they had a chance to vote on it this week to stop the AQMD and CARB and prevent them from raising our gas taxes 65 cents a gallon this summer, they declined. So in
Correct,
other words,
they did. They voted
still
no.
okay for them to raise the price of gas.
They vote yes when it hurts us. They vote no when it hurts us. Everyone out there, starting, I believe it's like July 2nd, you're getting 65 cents per gallon added to your gasoline. and a lot more coming for everything that you buy. Thanks to the Democrats and the Air Resources Board. Go into that. Kurt, what's your final blast here? And then that will be your final blast, and I'll go ahead and go off. Oh my God, Amy fell down.
Well, let's see.
I'm still here.
You heard that Gavin Newsom wants to work on a policy that will take away health care from seniors that are ineligible for a low-income health care if they have assets more than $2,000. Now, in today's world, $2,000 is a lot below the poverty level. So basically, Gavin Newsom wants to take away health care from indigent U.S. citizens and give it to
Correct. He
illegal
wants
aliens.
to bring back that rule to give it to illegal aliens. We are literally up against what I'm electing to be a hard stop. And for everyone out there, it's pretty obvious. We're not going to tell you about all the problems California has in one show. But fighters like Amy, Scott, Kurt, and of course myself, we will do something. Join us. Join us at Rebuild California. Throw us a few bucks. Throw a few bucks to restore California. Hey, we have the same initials. Split the donation down the way. And remember, no one is coming to save you. It is up to you to save the state of California so we can save the rest of our country. Next week, indeed, this time I'll get it right, we have Josh Hoover from the State Assembly on talking about his podcast and what you're going to do, or you need to do every day. Follow Amy, follow me, follow Scott, follow, and then help lead us out of the mess that we are in, because we can do this, because it's your damn state and it's up to you to take it back. We are California Free Radio. We will continue to speak loud. God bless, good night, and we will see you next week.